Hello and thanks for visiting the web channel of Carlisle Events and the Carlisle GM Nationals. I'm Mike Garland, media specialist with Carlisle Events, and I'm at Memory Lane Auto Museum in Mooresville, North Carolina, and I'm about to speak with NASCAR Hall of Famer and Carlisle GM Nationals special guest this summer, Bobby Allison. This multi-part series will span weeks leading up to our event in June. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the wisdom of a true racing legend. What took you from those local and regional tracks in Alabama to what everybody now recognizes as NASCAR? Obviously, a few stepping stones along the way, but talk about that process.
Well, see, I had worked for Keycafer there when I was just turned 18 years old, and so I was aware of the big tracks and the Grand National at the time, which is what became Cup racing. And at the time, they were running some dirt tracks still, but they were beginning to have good races on, um, the Martinsvilles and places like that. And then they built um, Atlanta and Daytona and Charlotte, which all of a sudden they had these super speedways in the picture. Now Darlington already existed, but that was a little bit uh, out of the circuit for me at the time. But I was aware of that, and so my idea was to uh, learn enough and expand my career enough that I could go off and race these Grand National races at the time. And so that's what I worked for.
When you raced in the 1961 Daytona 500, what were your initial thoughts of a super speedway like Daytona?
It was immense. I had gone by Daytona Speedway during its construction and looked in, but had not gone inside. But when I went through that tunnel that first time, going in for the 61 race, here was this immense speedway that just was awesome, and I was really taken by it.
Did you think then that you'd have the type of career that you're known for now?
Well, I didn't think I would for sure, but I sure hoped I would.
Talk about your first NASCAR victory, a 1966 race in Maine.
Yes, we were on the old Northern Tour, and I was with this new car that I had built with the help of my brother Eddie and a very good friend there in Alabama, Chuck Looney, that was on my team for quite a while in the early years. We had built this 60. Actually, it started out as a '64 Chevelle with a small block Chevy 327 actually, and the car had performed really good in its very first outing. I led the race at Beltsville, Maryland, but we had a mechanical failure. And then the second race was Daytona 4th of July, and Bill France Sr. talked me into putting a 427 in the car, and that wasn't really a good experiment, so we struggled through that. And then we headed north, and I was on the pole at Manassas, Virginia for the first race on the old Northern Tour. But a homemade fuel log I had made broke and flooded the inside of my car with gasoline, which could have been a really bad, horrible deal, but fortunately it didn't catch fire, but it used all my gas up, and the engine quit, and I coasted to a stop in the infield. So that was that race. The next race was a road course at Bridgehampton, and I wasn't ready for that, and I tore up all my engine pieces that I had. I kept patching my engine, putting it back together, but not much success. And we got out of Bridgehampton, went across to New England, and stopped at a Chevy dealership on the outskirts of Boston. Asked the young man behind the counter if he had a high-performance Corvette block assembly in stock, and he said, "We don't have a new one, but there's a used one, a takeout over there on the pile you can have for $50 if it'll help you." So I go look, and the thing's got everything I need, and so I give him $50, and I go to Oxford, Maine, work into the night at the little Chevy dealership by the Oxford, across the street from the Oxford Speedway, and prepare that block assembly, get it in the car, get over to Oxford Main Speedway the next night, and win my first race of my career. It's a great event for me.
After you won that first race, did you think that winning consistently would be easy?
Well, I had hoped it would be, but then I got a real lesson right off the bat because 2 nights later we were at a dirt track at Fonda, New York, and I was the center of attraction of a big old pileup. And when the wreck was over with, the right side of my car was 41 inches shorter than it was supposed to be. I have a cousin at the time was living right at the New York, New Jersey line at Dumont, New Jersey at the time. And he worked in a body shop. I called him up in the middle of the night and said, Dave, my cousin Dave Demarest, Dave, I've really got this car torn up, but we got to race at Islip Saturday night. So can you help me fix it? He said, yeah, get it here in the morning and tell me now what kind of parts you need, and I'll round up stuff and we'll go to work on it. So I told him, well, we had to have a front bumper and a right front fender and probably a hood, but I thought we could bang out the rest of the dents through the rest of the car pretty good, but we had to stretch it first. And he said, okay, we can handle that. Got down there the next day. His first remark was, wow, you didn't tell me it was wrecked this bad. But we went to worked through the night, Friday night. He had rounded up a couple of his friends to help with the body work and a little bit of touch up on some paint where we could. You know, we didn't do much on that. But got that thing done about mid-afternoon Saturday and hauled it over to Islip, Long Island, pulled in, and John Brunner Sr. was the chief steward at the time. When I checked in with him, he said, I just told NASCAR we'd never see this thing again. And I said, well, it ain't very pretty, but it's here. And I won my second cup race of my career.
This portion of our multi-part interview series with NASCAR Hall of Famer Bobby Allison has concluded. Come back next week for more from Bobby, and don't forget to visit CarlisleEvents.com to register for the Carlisle GM Nationals or get information on any of our other events at Carlisle and beyond.